Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're going to touch on all the local sports. I know it's not a good time to touch on local sports, but we'll do it anyway. We have a great panel for you tonight, as always. Tonight, Lenny Vangilder of SportsNola.com and Scott Alexander of Scout.com and so much more. We'll tell you all about what those guys are involved in. A little bit later on in the program, we'll go to the phone lines. Guys, welcome to the show. Lenny, you know how we like to do it. We always like to start talking a little bit about what you're involved in, and please tell the folks about SportsNola, WHNO, the whole 9 yards.
Got a lot going. It's that time of year. I know things have been kind of negative on the major sports front, but let me tell you, one of the big things going on right now that we won't get into tonight is high school football playoffs. If you're a high school football fan, SportsNola.com is your place to be. Friday night, get all your scores, best scoreboard in the state, and we've got 2 live streams this weekend on the website. Friday night at 7, De La Salle and Turlings Catholic, and then Saturday afternoon at 1, we've got Country Day and St. Thomas Aquinas, 2 terrific playoff games as we start to wind down to December and when we decide some championships in the Dome.
Beautiful. And also, can we throw in a little plug for the original?
Of course, yeah. Friday nights. In fact, within the original, Ken's been doing this now for 21 years. Within the broadcast, Friday night he'll have coverage of the Rummel Jesuit game from Joe Yanni Stadium as well. So a lot of great high school sports content between what goes on with Ken's show, the original. No one does it better than him.
Agreed.
And what we have at SportsNola.com.
Sounds good. Lenny, thanks for being here. Scott, welcome back to the show. Good to have you. Tell the folks about what you're involved in.
What am I not involved with right now? Listen, it's kind of back to where I started with Tim Brando again after 15 years of being with him. I kind of got, we didn't do a whole lot for 10 years, and now I'm back doing games every weekend. College football games for Fox Sports, and then, of course, Scout.com. I've been doing the SaintsInsider.com and Pelicans Pride Insider.com. And just this week, I left ESPN New Orleans. Mm-hmm. We have a nice amicable split moving forward, and I'll be back on the radio soon, somewhere. Yeah, I've already gotten a few calls, so we'll see where that ends up.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Saints. Yeah, we got to talk about the Saints. 4-6, embarrassed by the Redskins, again, 47-14. Guys, let's start with a little bit of an overview, and we'll get into the Rob Ryan firing, Dennis Allen. We'll talk a little bit about some of the specifics, but Lenny, where is this team right now? I mean, they look, before they really got decimated by the injuries, especially on the linebacker position, they look to be maybe getting a little bit over the hump. But now, again, they've kind of fallen back, and with 5 conference losses, it just, again, even on a little bit of a run, it looks like the playoffs may be out of reach.
I think so at this point. You got 6 games left. Everybody else will get to their 10th game this week, and then everybody plays the last 6 weeks while the Saints sit out this week. But it's not impossible, obviously, if you run the table. But based on what we've seen the first 10 games, can this team run the table? It's the one consistent thing that we've seen thus far is inconsistency. Yes. One week you get just a great all-around performance. Then the next week, you can't stop anybody. Then the next week, the offense is good and the defense is not so good. Then the next week, the offense can't do anything and maybe the defense plays a little bit better. You don't know what it is you're going to get from week to week with this team.
Yeah, Eric, listen, I'm Mr. Half Glass Full. You know that. Yes, even after 1-4, the Eagles game, when everybody was jumping off, I said, stay tight. They ended up winning 3 in a row, going to 4-4. And I wasn't doing I told you so's because I'd seen this. I've only been back in town 4 years. Well, 3 of those, including this year, the same things happened. Slow start, get it back to 500, and then fall off. So I wanted to wait before I was really going to jump in. I said, okay, the schedule opens up. This is easier, right? My goodness, it was the Titans game when you had the lead the entire game until the last overtime play when they took the lead. Reminiscent of 2012, the Kansas City Chiefs game, that was a debacle. Well, then you get this next week. I'm like, okay, it's going to get right again. You're playing pretty well for the first quarter. You know, it's the Giants Saints all over again. That's touchdown for touchdown. And then all of a sudden the bottom drops out. And for the first time, honestly, in a long time, I can just say, yeah, I don't see the hope. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I knew the linebackers being out the last 2 weeks would be a problem. I didn't know it was going to be this big a problem. Yeah, the Saints team's got something inside going on that I'm not going to say that the locker room is divisive as it was last year. That's not the issue. They just don't have the chemistry they used to have.
And probably don't have the talent as well. You know, it just goes to show you, you know, you can't have multiple years of bad drafts. You can't spend money on free agents that really don't come through. You can't reward your own players and they don't play the level in which you're paying them. They just really aren't. I mean, even though this is a league where you go from worst to first, they're really not. They're not quick fixes in the NFL. You've got to have talent to win, and the 50% turnover in the roster has affected them.
I agree. There's no question about that. And I think there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Once you manage your way out of this salary cap mess a year or two down the road, what they did in a draft this year, at least at this point, looks promising. Now, does that project out always a year or two from now? Maybe not, but at least what you're looking at now, I think you've got some reason to be hopeful on what is coming down the road on the defensive side of the football. But you can't expect to win and be consistent with rookies. And obviously, like you mentioned, the injuries have been a factor as well, particularly on the defensive side. Certainly, it's impacted the offensive line and some other spots as well. But really on the defensive side of the football, you just don't know what 11 you're going to line up with from week to week.
Each week, I keep waiting for the stat that Lenny will come up on Sunday night or Monday about the game, because it's been this craziness, and it's always something. And even at halftime of the Redskins game, 394 yards against the Saints in one half. Skins hadn't done that since '88. Everything seems to be in history when they're playing the Saints, and this defense is becoming historically bad again. But I like what he said about the cornerstones, the building pieces you did get out of this draft. You really do have some nice pieces. You have to wait and see how some of the middle round guys are going to be. We haven't seen P.J. Williams yet. We haven't seen a full dose of the others, but you know what you got from Kakaha. You know what you're going to get from Anthony. And you feel like this guy Pete's going to be really good one day, right? I feel good about those pieces, but it's those middle round guys that they have been hitting and missing on the last few years. If they can come through like they look like they might be able to, I'm really excited for the future.
Well, Scott, let's talk a little bit about the Rob Ryan situation, because they fired Rob Ryan. We'll get into the specifics of, how that went down and how dysfunctional that was. But speaking about dysfunctional, it's been a dysfunctional marriage between Peyton and Ryan since he got here. And it wasn't really, didn't help the situation when you had the defensive coordinator in waiting and Dennis Allen kind of breathing over the shoulder of Rob Ryan. Rob Ryan's dismissed now. It looked like the team, again, I don't want to say they quit on him, but they didn't seem to be playing over the last couple of weeks with the enthusiasm that we've seen in the past. And for the most part, we haven't seen a lot of players that have, gone out on Twitter and really kind of embraced the coach on his way out, et cetera, et cetera. Talk about the firing and talk about what maybe Dennis Allen, can he turn this around? I mean, talent is talent at the end of the day.
That's a good question. I mean, listen, I did this for Scout.com, SaintsInsider.com, a big piece on this whole thing. I like Rob Ryan. I do. I like him. But he is the quick fix guy. It seems like he's done this before. This is his fourth stop. He gets there. He's at that flashy, exotic kind of defenses, and you kind of throw stuff out. All of a sudden, the Saints go from 32nd to 4th, and then they drop back to 31st. And I was one that bought in. I said, they're going to be back in towards the middle of the pack at worst. And it looked like for a few weeks they were. Remember those 3 wins? They gave up 20, 21, 20. I think some of those weren't all defensive points either. Right. But what I've seen the last few weeks, you can say what you want. They didn't quit. They weren't playing hard. Let's be honest. You can't give up those kind of yards and say, I've been playing hard, playing for the coach to keep his job. That wasn't the case. But as far as Dennis Allen, listen, he's a great mind. He's a young guy. People forget he was 39 when he got handed the head coaching job at Oakland, and that's a graveyard of coaches. Is he your answer? I don't know. I don't know. He had that 1 year in Denver as a defensive coordinator, and it wasn't like he was lights out. They were opportunistic, but they gave up a lot of yards on that team. The Raiders thing, didn't have much success there. But I thought the whole mix of Allen and Ryan, as much as we wanted to see it work, you figured this was going to be the ultimate ending, right? And it is. So I guess the ball is in Dennis Allen's court, and let's see if he can run with it.
Lenny, what can you add?
I think that the one thing that Dennis Allen brings that none of the other 4 defensive coordinators we've seen in the Payton regime have is he's a Payton guy.
Yes.
Everybody else has come in from the outside, experience as a defensive coordinator, and been put in that spot. Here's a guy who groomed through the system, left, and has now come back, and now he's been handed the reins. That's the difference. So maybe some of that divisiveness that we've seen out there, we may see less of that. Now, that said, it's still the same players.
Yes.
You're not suddenly overhauling the roster, but as we just saw 2 weeks ago when the Titans came to town, sometimes, fresh blood in a coaching seat can make a difference, whether you're changing some things in terms of the calls, whether you're changing some things, you can't just completely blow up the scheme in the course of an off week. You've still got to teach these guys that. It's not like you've got a whole training camp to do it. You've got 1 week, and they're off this week.
Right, they're off.
So you've got, you don't have much time, but you can do some tweaks. And again, I think that different voice in the room can make a difference, as again, what we just saw 2 weeks ago with Tennessee.
Lenny, from a talent standpoint, the evaluation of talent on the defensive side has left a lot to be desired during the Payton era. But I also feel like he's hamstrung his defensive coordinators. You come in, you can't bring your staff in. You've got to be able to take on Joe Vitt and Bill Johnson. And I wonder how fair it's been to the previous staff members that have come in terms of the defensive coordinators. And now this time around, Dennis Allen has been with these guys. As you said, a Payton guy. Maybe it's a little bit different. But the 4 before that, obviously they had to absorb what was there.
They did. And will this be different? Is 6 weeks really a test to find out if this is going to be different? Because, again, you don't have an entire offseason to implement a system and, what else you might do. But, and again, like you mentioned, you've still got some Payton guys sitting on that side, and the other guys have not been able to just bring in all of their own guys, though certainly they could bring in some of them.
Right.
It's a great question, and again, I don't know if 6 weeks is going to provide the answer for that.
Scott?
I mean, listen, Dennis Allen, the advantage he has is that he was able to sit in here and see what may have worked a little bit and what didn't work, and he didn't have to take the blame for it, right? I mean, he was a defensive consultant. He came in. So he's had an advantage in that sense as opposed to some guy that's, you could say the same thing if a linebacker coach takes over, but he's kind of been overseeing everything. They've had an actual position coach at each of the others. So now he gets to come in. And like Lenny said, okay, he might not overhaul everything, of course, but he can see, oh man, this didn't work, and I wish I could have been able to have the power to call that play. Rob did. Now I'm going to call it and let's see if it works differently. That's all I can see as far as maybe this will work sooner than later. One
thing that did shock me in the post-game interviews, Delvin Breaux being interviewed, when they asked about the screen pass, which has been a staple of the Saints offense. This team has practiced against the screen pass since Payton has been here, but he said there was no call for the screen pass in the game plan on Sunday against the Redskins. And to me that it surely looked like they weren't prepared for it, but that is mind-boggling.
It is, and again, I don't know what they saw on film leading up. We're not in a film room, and what they may have seen that if it was something they haven't seen up until now, then again maybe they weren't totally prepared for it. But again, you never know what teams are going to do based on what they see against the Saints on film. So you can't just assume that just because the Redskins haven't shown it much on film that they in turn may not see something as well. It does make it hard to to try to project that way. But again, based on what I'm seeing against the Saints defense, I'd open up the whole playbook right now and throw everything at them, because you got a chance to break anything at any time.
Let's be honest. This was the Washington Redskins, okay? There are no fantasy football players on that team that people are starting. Let's be honest with that. And if this was the Patriots, I would have been calling the league office saying they're bugging the headsets, because they knew what was coming. Whatever defense they lined in the play that was going to be the best to go against it. Every single play was like that. Matt Jones, Hall of Famer. Every one of these guys, the tight end, Jordan Reed, Hall of Famer. This is beyond bad. And then you have Brandon Browner trying to knock out an offensive tackle instead of going for the guy. It's like now you're just like everything is just broken loose.
Well, stay with that, because that was going to be my next question.
Okay.
Your thoughts on that play?
It's terrible. How can you defend it?
You can't.
You mean the guy's running by, and I'm not sure he had the perfect angle for him, but at least try to look like you do it. Because
it was 14-14 at that point. Okay, it was a tie game.
And what did this offensive lineman, what kind of vendetta do you have from like 2012 against him? Because there was something going on that he said, I have my lick on him, and here's my opportunity. But the bottom line is, that to me was the signal of it all. I just was like, okay, now they're just running wild. Because I had to rewind it,
Oh, yeah. So did
three
I.
times. And I'm like, wait, I know he could at least tried for him. And I think he would have had him.
Right.
So
at least slowed him up.
it really just kind of, you know me, half glass full. It just kind of made me just have that feeling like, okay, this is all just blown apart.
Lenny, you covered football for a long time. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I really don't get it. I don't. Yeah, those things, they do happen, but I don't get it. I don't understand that. You wouldn't think, and I wonder how much that play went into what happened on Monday. If could that something like that have been the final straw? Look, he's lost total control of these guys, and that's you have to wonder if that's the case, if there was anything to that, but. Clearly, Brandon Browner has not exactly ingratiated himself with the city of New Orleans, whether it's through the 204 penalties that have been called on him in 10 weeks. I think I'm a little high on that, but still.
Not too high.
Maybe a little low.
Or the,
Right.
or his interactions with the media, that's not. He hasn't exactly, made himself out to be a model citizen.
Well, what's his future then? I mean, again, they paid him a lot of money. I mean, not an exorbitant amount, but when you're looking at a cap and your cap strap, it's a lot of money. Obviously, at this point, from just watching how he's been playing, he's either not in the same playing in the same type of defense. They're not using the same way that his previous teams have used him. We've had individuals on this show that have said as much, and again, he's a foul every single play. You can't afford him at this point, whether you can afford him from a salary cap standpoint or putting him on the field.
I think you got a couple of things to consider there. One is the fact you got a new coordinator. Two is you could have even something new beyond this year. We don't know what may happen there, and that's when those decisions will get made. I don't think they're going to suddenly cut him during the bye week here, but that said, I think anything's in play there. Do you play him fewer snaps? Keep in mind, one of the things that we found out this week is a lot of his compensation package is tied to the number of snaps that the percentage of snaps that he plays in the course of a season. The one thing he has done, which a lot of other guys haven't done, at least he stayed healthy.
Yes.
So there's that, but and part of that is actually probably worked to his advantage because some of the other DBs aren't healthy. They really don't have a lot of options of what they could put out there on the field in his place.
That's the answer I was going to give you. He's playing because Keenan Lewis is not full speed. So they have all these other issues. Damian Swan's not. So if Keenan Lewis and Bro can play corner, that means Swan could play the nickel if everyone's healthy. He's forced to be in there, but you're giving $10 million minimum to him. Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's 3 years, 15.
3 years, 15.
10 guaranteed. So you're at this position where you have so much dead money, Eric, that, okay, gosh, if we just cut, even if it's the end of the season, you're losing another $5 million.
Right.
So you got to think, okay, you don't want to just waste this money again. So how can we fit him into Dennis Allen's system next season?
Yeah.
Where can we make him? Maybe he's the nickel corner. I don't know. Maybe he can be a hybrid linebacker, safety, something. But right now you can't do it in the middle of the season because it's the middle of the season. So where he fits, I don't know. I mean, but the part off the field is, if anything's going to drive him away, that might even be driving him away faster.
Scott, another maybe play that we've never seen maybe since Peyton has been here was the confusion on 4th and 4, where, again, Peyton looks like he doesn't know what down it is. You've got Breeze waiting to find out what's going on. They finally, they're sending on the punting team. Breeze waves them off, of course, and then just a little minor, they don't make the 4th down, a little minor confrontation as Breeze goes to the sideline. It was Streif and Breeze that Peyton was in their ear for a moment. Your thoughts on that? Because I've never seen that from a Peyton-led team.
Well, I'm going to say this, because I knew that Lions was hosting 4th down and 4 for the first time. We're friends. So I called him immediately. I said, this is your lead, because this symbolizes the end of this era to me. When those two got into it, him waving them off, I know Breeze is a competitor. He wanted to, hey, listen, we're going to lose anyway, so let me just try to get this first down. I get that. But when they got on the sideline, it was like Peyton did with Ryan, like Peyton does with everybody. But you didn't ever see it with Peyton and Breeze, and it was barking. And I just thought it was symbolic at the moment. I'm not going to say it was definitely going to be the thing, but I thought it to me, the way the game was going, we kind of knew this season was kind of over. And it just hit me all of a sudden. And I said, this looks like this might be the end of this era, and that might be the symbol of it.
And we're going to get into that in a few minutes. Lenny, your thoughts?
The question that came to mind in my mind, who's running the ship?
Yeah.
Is it Sean Payton or is it Drew Brees? Who's the offensive coordinator of this team? I wondered after seeing that. The other thing about that in the 4th quarter, maybe as much so as, Breeze being out, waving off the punt team, is the fact that it's 47-14, and Breeze is still in the game.
Right.
Oh, by the way, it's the one time all year you've got your rookie quarterback up because you just had to, just had to put McCown on IR, and Matt Flynn is not ready yet. So you've actually got Garrett Grayson up for that game. And you can get him some meaningful, if you will, at least in a real game. It's a 30-point game. He might just be handing the ball off. But get him some snaps in a real game and get Breeze out of harm's way, who, by the way, he's already been beaten up. But one thing, if you go back and look at it, when the Saints have gotten blown out, okay, Breeze doesn't come out. When the Saints are the one delivering the blowout, oh, yeah, it's okay. At that point, the hay's in the barn. We've won this game. I'll come out and hand it over. Or if it's week 17 and the game means nothing and you're going to the playoffs. But if it's a blowout, he's staying in. And look, like you said, is that the competitor in Breeze? Probably so. Okay? But you can't fault him for that. But would it have done some good to be able to get Garrett Grayson some snaps at that point? I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Do you agree?
100%. But I mean, yeah, Breeze doesn't ever want to come out.
He's not coming off the
He
field.
doesn't want to come out. You have to pull him off. So that's all.
Another thing that really was very curious this week was and I reported it on Monday, the fact that after the firing of Ryan, that Sean Payton went on a scheduled vacation to Malibu. Now, I know he gave the team the week off, but they're 4-6. You just fired your defensive coordinator. I don't care if you're the CEO of a major corporation. I don't care if you own a small business. I don't care if you're one of the other 32 coaches. If there is a strong general manager or a strong owner, I don't know if Peyton's running out to Malibu. Now, I understand he went to visit his daughter, but it's Thanksgiving week next week. Schools are out. He makes $8 million a year. Give her a ticket and let her come back to New Orleans. I just think that when this ship is sinking right now, and there should be all hands on deck to try to figure this out, where they're going wrong. Guys, I mean, I went after him on the radio show this week because I just think that if there was, a true chain of command, we wouldn't have seen Peyton rolling out with his girlfriend and another couple to Malibu for 5 days.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, but again, when things are bad or whatever, and that clearly they are, sometimes you just got to get away from it all and refocus yourself and get ready for the rest of the way. Just like the players are doing, get your rest, get your bodies well. Same thing there. But those guys, they go 18-hour days.
They do.
7 days a week. A lot of the season. It's gotten a little bit less than that, but I mean you see that you see where the tree that Peyton's come from, and he deals with that the same way. And those guys really do work hard, and sometimes you just do need to unwind. Did it need to be done that way? Maybe not, but I do see the need to unwind as well.
Well, it's funny because when I heard you say that in the beginning, I thought immediately what you said about the daughter. I was like, I have a kid in college. I have another one about to go to college.
She's at Pepperdine.
And I was thinking, okay, Malibu, Pepperdine. I know that's it. And I'm all about the father-son, father-daughter relationship. So, but then I started hearing what you had to say, and it made sense. But it's funny. I'm glad you said what you said because I am split down the middle on this, and I have been since I heard your argument, and I was going to kind of bring the other side up. But yeah, I get it, man. This ship is sinking. But it also maybe it tells you that maybe he in his back of his mind thinks maybe I'm not here the long term.
Well, again, Scott, you're reading my mind here. Are you on my show sheet? Because
I promise I didn't see it.
Because that's the next question. Okay. Is this the beginning of the end? We've heard, again, this was dropped by his agent, the flirtations with Miami, Indianapolis, and USC. Then comes the out clause. We have the ability to get out at the end of the season. Then the Yahoo Sports report that the Saints might not even looking for compensation. They're going to let him out of his contract. First of all, there's no way Sean Payton's getting away without any compensation. You'd be a fool to allow that to happen. Scott, do you think he's here next year?
At this point, I don't think so. I mean, honestly, I don't. I mean, I think he's been about leverage ever since Bountygate. He's suspended, yet he comes back and leverages it into a big contract because the Cowboys needed some. And I think his agent's pretty adept at doing that. I'm not saying he's the one letting all this stuff out, but the fact is I would have not said this when other people were earlier in the year. I was kind of like, no, but at this point, I've just seen too many things that make me think if you had to put the gun to my head and just said, Scott, is he going to be here or not going to be here? And until this week, I would have said here. And now I don't think so. I just don't. I mean, I'm not saying it's 80-20, but I think it's 55-45 that he wouldn't as opposed to he would.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he'll be here
Right.
at the end of the season.
I think it's a coin flip at this point, really. Obviously, what happens these last 6 weeks could play a part in that.
Sure.
If you get to 9-7 or 10-6 or whatever, obviously your feeling is better. If you're 5-11, who knows? And I think, like you said, this stuff that magically appears on these Sunday morning,
Splash
pregame,
reports, yeah.
right, the splash reports. That's not just coincidence or just inadvertently got dropped out there. It's there for a reason, and whether it's trying to leverage something or just trying to set the stage for what might be to come, that all remains to be seen. But like I said, I would call it a coin flip at this point.
Let's stay with coaches on the hot seat for a moment. Not that Peyton's seat is hot, because I don't think anybody at the organization is willing to tell him his seat is hot. I think he makes his own decisions. Report by Scott Rabelais this week in The Advocate about the boosters are a little bit waning on their support of Les Miles. We've known all along that, again, the buyout has been an incredible buyout, $15 million. It does go down to about $13 million and then down to about $4 million, depending on the year. What we didn't know until this week was the $15 million can be paid over 8 years. There's another $2 million that is in play for the assistants if the assistants are fired as well. Lenny, I'll take you first. Do you think Les Miles, if he doesn't run the table, gets bought out and they're looking for another LSU coach despite his success?
Perhaps. That's a definitive answer for you there. Yeah.
50-50.
Well, no, I would say if they lose this week and next week, it's big trouble. If they win them both, I think he's got a good chance of being there. If he splits, then it may be a 50-50 proposition, as we were talking about before we came on air. I mean, the reality is this: if LSU wins the next 2 games, they've got a better than average shot of ending up in the Sugar Bowl. Ending up in one of those, those 6 college football playoff games. We're not in the BCS era anymore, but one of those, the New Year's 6, as they refer to them. And that's somewhere that they haven't been since 2011. So you're at least getting back to there. Look, at the end of the day, is this 1979 all over again, where you're talking about Charlie Mack, who can't beat Alabama? Because that's what this comes down to.
It feels like it, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, he would go 7-4, 8-3, 9-2 every year, but he couldn't beat Alabama.
Right.
Guess what? Neither could anybody else. And right now, nobody else can beat Alabama either, with the exception of Ole Miss has done it the last 2 years. Okay, so that's, in my mind, that's a big standard to be held to, but at the same time, he's elevated the bar that high by the fact that he has, continued the success that Nick Saban had, winning a national championship, getting back to a national championship game. And that bar is up there, and 4 straight years of not getting back to that highest tier of bowl games, who knows?
You're an LSU graduate. Your thoughts?
Well, speaking of the Ole Miss thing, it made me think of something because Saban has scheduled LSU, whether he wants to admit it or not, for the last 4 years, maybe even longer. But when he got beat twice in a row, like Ole Miss has just done to him, it's going to be Ole Miss right now, because he is not going to lose to a team 3 years in a row. So he is going to put all that focus. But
If he's even there. Remember, Indianapolis has the hots for him right now. And from what I understand, Irsay is willing to break the bank to bring him there. Whether he'll go back to the pros or not.
And why wouldn't you break the bank? Honestly, why wouldn't you? You have Andrew Luck. It's not like this situation where you had an aging Culpepper in Miami. Why wouldn't you break the bank for a coach? It's funny. That's another topic. But coaches and general managers, to me, now the coaches are getting the money, but general managers are still not getting enough. I don't understand. They're the ones that architect the teams. But as far as LSU, listen, I'm going to go ahead one step further. If he loses the next 2 games, I know enough boosters to know he's gone. I mean, I hate to say it. I've been a supporter of Les Miles the whole time, but even when he was doing great, 10-win, there were at least 50% of those that have some power, and the ones that have the power, they're in Taft, right? They weren't in love with him. They were, not they were waiting for him to mess up. They want the team to do well, but the moment it's gotten to where it is now, and he's right about the Bama thing. You're talking 5 years in a row. You put Les's numbers up, and the rest of the country will be like, dude, are you kidding me? Right. And I kind of do that to fans too, to temper them. I'm like, do you remember where you came from before Saban and Miles? The 90s weren't very good to LSU, and you got to look at Tennessee. be careful what you wish for, right? The same thing was going on with Philip Fulmer, and all of a sudden now they are finally getting back to respectability, and that's a decade later and several coaches. So I'm torn physically, mentally and about this situation, because I like Les in a lot of ways, but I listen to what some people that I respect say about what's going on in game, people that are down on the field often, and they're just like, it's head scratching. So that said, there's a lot of good in Les, but there's that other part that just makes you just want to pull your hair out.
Well, Scott Radley's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on at LSU, and I'm one that believes he loses the last 2 games. They'll be looking for a head coach. There will be a buyout. And again, I think the key is over 8 years. You know, if it was $15 million had to come up with immediately, that would be tough to go to boosters and get that. But over an 8-year period, that's palatable.
Welcome to those ticket prices going up.
No doubt. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE-TV with our live broadcast at 6 p.m. Every Friday night you can catch us on Pelican Sports Television in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette markets at 9 p.m. right back here on WLAE at 10 p.m. My name is Eric Asher. I'm your host. We'll be going to the phone lines when we get back. Lenny Vangilder of SportsNoel.com, Scott Alexander of Scout.com are our guest. 866-3200 if you want to get on the phone lines. We'll be right back.
New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by.
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Frisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. WLAE is currently looking for partners to underwrite this program and other programs on our station. Underwriting on WLAE is affordable, brings exposure to your cause or company, and helps support our nonprofit mission of providing television programs that educate, inform, and inspire the viewers of Greater New Orleans and Southeast Louisiana. If you are interested in learning about program underwriting on WLAE, please contact us at 504-830-3703.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. 866-3200 is the phone number. We're going to get to the Pelicans. Also, we're going to try to get to Tulane before the show is up. Of course, your phone calls are welcome. Guys, just a few short weeks ago, we were talking about LSU in a national championship run, the Saints making a playoff run, and now, again, LSU's been exposed as paper tigers. Obviously, the Saints are they're injury-riddled, but they are a sinking ship, as I mentioned. I think the biggest disappointment for me is the offensive line, Lenny.
I think you could point to a lot of places, but certainly that is. I mean, Max Hunger's been okay. Mm-hmm. Is he a Pro Bowl caliber player in my mind? Not that what I've seen this year. He's better than what you had there. And you've still had some injuries to deal with, and maybe you weren't able to do everything you wanted to do. You know what I wonder is, and you hate to play the what if game. I tell my wife this all the time. I hate to play the what if game. But here's the but. But I'm going to play it right now. What if on the Monday before the draft that Lyle Collins report comes out? Do they take Collins instead of Pete at 12?
Probably.
And you've got yourself a starting guard right now if you do, instead of a guy who's not playing. What does that do to the dynamic of this offensive line if that happens?
Yeah, no doubt. And I did mean the LSU.
I thought you meant LSU.
Oh, you're talking LSU. I'm sorry. And I will add that about LSU.
Right.
That's been, at times it's been good, but at times I'm baffled there
Only
too.
because they seem to dominate the lesser opponents, but when they got up against teams that were as physical as they weren't able to impose their will. LSU against Alabama, against Arkansas, we saw a different offensive line. Scotty?
Well, the trenches, we went, by the way, November, listen, I've never seen anything like this in sports in this town or any town, really. The month of November, the last 2 weeks have been awful. LSU was number 2 in the country. Now they've fallen off. The Saints, 3 in a row. Drew Brees just threw 7 touchdown passes where they are, and the Pels are 1-11. This is awful. But the bottom line is here, that offensive line, before going into the game, I was like, okay, this is going to be one of the trenches like it always is with LSU, Alabama. But for them to be woefully overhauled and mauled like they were. They were out physical by every step of it. And the defensive line as well. They both got worn down, and I don't know what that means, but Arkansas did it to them as well. You saw it early and you saw it late. And that's the most shocking thing. LSU got out physical 2 weeks in a row. I never thought I'd see that.
Anything you can add?
Well, the thing is, when you're dealing with LSU's offensive line, and just you've got nowhere to go because they're committed to this power package, and they really don't spread the field and try to you're basically inviting teams to play 7, 8, 9 guys in the box, which makes it a challenge.
Yes.
And instead of trying to run some things out of spread formations with 4 wide receivers, even if you want to take your tight ends and split them out, just do some things differently to take a little bit of pressure off your offensive line.
Leonard Fournette has been a godsend for this program. Obviously, he looked like a shoo-in as the Heisman winner this year. Now, again, with LSU stubbing its toe in November, it may be a race literally to the last game between him and Henry for the trophy. Your thoughts on Fournette, and do you think he ends up winning this Heisman Trophy, or is this a situation where maybe he's a year away now?
He's a year away. I mean, I can't see it winning at all, honestly. I mean, what Henry did was on the big stage, and I know people threw the arguments at me. They're saying, hey, Mark Ingram won it. He had 30 yards against Auburn. Well, Auburn was terrible that year. They had Ben Tate on the other side getting 45 yards. So the argument's done, and it just got exclamation pointed in the Arkansas game because Henry went on in his next game and got another 200. This race is over. I don't care what Fournette does the rest of the way. It's not going to matter. It's what's in the heads of the voters, and that's all that matters. Stats don't matter. I told people the 250 he didn't get against McNeese was going to matter, and I thought it might at the end against other competitors. After Alabama, it doesn't matter anymore. He's done.
Right.
What's interesting to me is I and maybe we're biased being down here, but you think he's still in the top 3.
Yes.
Okay, maybe Henry's the leader, but he's still in the top 3. Still going to get an invite to New York. A good strong finish in these last 2 games. Maybe he's got a chance to even play himself back into the top of the race. ESPN's doing analysis earlier today. Top 5 in the Heisman race. Two different people picking their top 5. Neither one of them had him in their top 5 as of today.
Neither one?
I mean, but you know what?
It's a nationwide vote. That's what it is.
All about that. What has our society become? What have you done for me lately?
Instant gratification.
Exactly. He was the guy, and now all of a sudden, two so-so or not even so-so games in a row, and he's fallen off the map. So maybe those last 2 weeks, can change things.
Right.
We'll see.
Head to the phone lines, 866-3200 to Homa and Greg. Greg, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, I got an opinion about the Saints.
Sure.
And I just kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts on it. I may be off base, but this is my thought. When we were really good, when Sean Payton first came here, and we had Greg Williams as a defensive coordinator before Bountygate, I think Sean Payton kind of let Greg Williams do what he was going to do, and then he was going to coach the offense, and that's really all he had to worry about. But then after Bountygate, he was more of a micromanager, and like any one of us, I mean, when your boss is a micromanager, you really can't succeed. So I just want to hear you guys' thoughts about it.
Thank you, Greg. Scotty, you want to take it first?
I'm going to say I think he's right. I mean, I don't know what else to mount on that. I think he's right.
Wasn't that a byproduct of the Bountygate?
Yeah.
I mean, he had Joe Vitt kind of his eyes and ears in the locker room, the defensive locker room, and then all of a sudden, the next time around, he made sure that he wasn't just going to hand the reins over to an assistant coach. Lenny? I
don't know that I 100% agree, but I certainly think that is a large part of it. And it's. He's still got, obviously, it's not like he's going and sitting in defensive meetings and, going through all of that like some head coaches do. He's the offensive guy. So he's got to entrust what his defensive coaches are doing. Now, he doesn't always have to agree with it. I think you see his frustrations more and more. We've seen that over the last 3 years, particularly the last 2 years,
yes.
With Ryan. I'm going to be interested to see, we touched on this earlier, just what his demeanor is on the defensive side of the ball the next 6 weeks. Now that, again, it's, air quotes, his guy,
yes.
Dennis Allen, as the DC.
I think that's a great point. Tom is in Metairie. Hey, Tom. Welcome to Inside New Orleans
Eric,
Sports.
how you doing?
Doing
Hey,
great,
guys.
Tom.
I'll make maybe a couple of statements, and I'm not even sure if you can comment on it.
Sure.
One thing you said, Eric, in one other show, you talked about Sean Payton wanting to be on the red carpet. And I think he and Les Miles both make too much money I mean, I know they're in line with the other coaches, but I think after a while they lose the hunger. And I think that's where the Saints and LSU need to go, is find a young coach again that wants to win, that wants to make the money. And I think that hunger is gone for both of them. It's too bad that these guys aren't paid more on performance, including the head coaches. And you talked about performance for the Saints, where you've seen some players not really, going 100%. If they were paid on wins, and I know this is crazy, but if they were paid on wins, I bet you they'd be out there and they wouldn't be worried about the hangnail type injuries and that kind of thing. But so what you got to say is kind of more of a statement than really something you can discuss. But
Thank you.
Hunger, it's what drives athletes. It drives coaches. The hunger to win, and he's right. You've seen these memes come out about the Greenbrier, and where dreams go to die. It's a graveyard of. Listen, that's a beautiful place, but when they were at Millsaps and they were sweating, and then you could see the difference. I'm just saying, that's not the only thing, but it's a symptom of it all. And I'm with you. You don't see the same hunger from Sean Payton. I mean, I hate to say that because. A lot of people will disagree with me, but I don't see the same thing I saw. Now, I've been closer to the situation now than I was when I lived in Atlanta.
Yes.
I just don't see it being the same. As far as Les Miles, I don't know. I mean, the hunger with him, it could be similar. I don't see the same thing because
I still see hunger in Miles, but what I just said was you can't walk the red carpet at night and lift the Lombardi in January because you got to be totally focused on what's going on. Lenny, what's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the market dictates these things. You'd like to think of, we're talking about based on wins, whether it's coaches or players and things like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Unless somebody just totally blows up the system of how we're compensating these guys, it doesn't work that way. And look, they've earned the salaries they've gotten based on the skins they have on the wall. Sean Payton's a Super Bowl champion. Les Miles is a national champion coach. So they've earned the right to make what it is they're making. Does it affect how hungry they are to do it again? Maybe a little, but look, at the end of the day, these guys are still competitors, and they want to, they want to win as much as the next guy does.
Brian is in Metairie. Hey, Brian, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey guys, how y'all doing tonight?
Hey, Brian, how you?
Hey, Brian.
All right. First of all, I got a couple of little comments. I'm trying to be real quick. First off, my Tigers. I love them dearly. Les Miles is done. I think Les Miles has run his course. Saban set the bar many years ago. Look, I sat the stands when we had Curly Hallman and Jerry Donato and Archer. And then Saban come along and he was like the Messiah. And he raised that bar high. Saban moves on. Here comes Miles, a decent coach in his own right. I think he won the first national championship on Saban. That was his guys. And I really was able to coach the team to 9-10 wins every year. But finally, when he gets his kids on a big stage, they lay a big purple and gold egg in the middle of the dome. I think Miles has run his course. I don't know if time's passed him by, if it's his scheme. I don't know what it is, but I really think it's time for Miles to go. Anybody else in the league would probably say, y'all are nuts. I wish my team won 9 games. But think of the bowls we've gone to since 2011. The Outback Bowl and the Burger King Bowl and the Stay Fresh Bowl. I mean, we're going to those big bowls. Now, years ago, we would have been happy. And as far as the Saints, I said it a couple of weeks ago or last week to you, bad. That defense needs to be reconstructed. You got Brown ought to be in jail for mugging people. And Bird ought to be in jail for stealing money. He is no ball hawk. No ball hawk at all.
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Guys, any comments? Or move to the next call.
I think he pretty well said
I
it
think
all.
he
It's
laid it out.
not much you can.
Good call, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Martin is in Destrehan. Martin, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, Martin, thanks for the call.
All right, Mr. Ash, I really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
I got one question. Y'all talking about Les Miles, Sean Payton, both might be let go at the end of the season. I just wondered who y'all think might be some viable candidates to replace them. And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you.
Y'all.
Guys, I was asked this question earlier on last week's show and earlier this week on the radio show. I have not looked at it. I think that the LSU job this time around is not going to be the same situation that we saw the last time around because Saban left so late. Spurrier could have been available, and he ended up at South Carolina. So I think that if they are to let Miles go this time around, they'll have their pick of the litter, so to speak. As far as the Saints go, I really think that I think it's going to be a tough situation. I don't know if I trust Mickey Loomis to pick the next coach. So it'll be interesting to see there. And if you do that, you need a strong football GM to be able to oversee the football operations. And I think that maybe that might be the next mole that they go to.
Well, LSU, the first two that came to my mind are in the Big 12. For whatever reason, I thought of Art Briles and Gary Patterson.
Okay.
And I thought of Briles for one reason, is because LSU fans are so tired of what they're seeing right now. It's just run, run, run.
Right.
Well, you're going to see a different brand of football if he comes in. It'll be exciting. I don't know if it's going to work, Felipe Franks or whoever might be the quarterback of the future. And then Gary Patterson was known as a defense coach, but what I liked about him, he changed with the times, and he became known as an offensive guy as well. I mean, he brought offensive-minded offensive coordinators. But as far as that goes, it's too early for me to talk Saints because Peyton, this is middle of the season.
First, start with Saints. The question is going to be this. Is whoever, if there is a change, is whoever that coach is going to be given, you know, they use the Bill Parcells term, are you going to be allowed to buy the groceries as well as cook the dinner? That's part one. Then going back to LSU, if the first phone call isn't to Tallahassee, Florida, I would be disappointed.
I would be very disappointed as well because he would be my first choice. There's no doubt about it. Jimbo Fisher has LSU ties. And from what I understand, loves Louisiana, and he would be my first choice. I would agree.
And would be popular.
Right. Oh, he'd be popular with the LSU family. But will he leave Florida State is the question. I mean, you know, you don't have to take on Alabama. You don't have to take on that SEC West. You're in the ACC.
Big,
that's huge. I mean, you can, you know, if you got a good team, you're almost in the Final Four if you're Florida State.
Every year.
Raymond is in Mandeville. Raymond, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Raymond.
Hey, I want to see. I heard that this is Drew Brees last year. Is that true?
He is under contract for one more season.
All right. Somebody was saying this be his last year.
Yeah, no. One more season.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, Raymond. Cole is in New Orleans. Cole, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, I just want to say I totally agree with what you're just saying about, you know, Sean Payton. I mean, who is Mickey Loomis going to get besides Sean Payton that would be better than Sean Payton? Nobody. So here's my question: is that, you know, a lot of people are saying that we got rid of, or he got rid of Rob Ryan because he wanted to save face. My question is, who's he saving face for? The fans in New Orleans? Or for other NFL teams, you know, if he's looking for another job. Personally, I'll wish for New Orleans because I love Sean Payton. Yeah, we're playing absolutely terrible for the past few years, but he's one of the best coaches in the league, period. Who else are we going to get besides him?
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Cole. If focused, I think Sean Payton is one of the best coaches in the NFL. Period. The end.
And he was on his way to become one of the best in history.
Oh, no doubt.
Young, focused, driven. Well, his resume's taken a little hit lately.
Right.
Yeah, and look, in both of these cases, Saints and LSU, you know, we've thrown out some names, and you know, people talk. But the caller brings up a good point. You know, if you're going to make a change, who better is out there to come in? What are you going to get that's going to be better than what you have in either instance?
But Lenny, I see that maybe the administration can make a change with LSU, but I only see Sean Payton calling his own shot with the Saints. Sean Payton walks if Sean Payton wants to walk. Other than that, Sean Payton has a job for life.
That's the issue here. Nobody's firing him because
Sean
he's
Payton.
leaving on his own.
Right.
Okay, so there's the issue right there.
Guys, let's shift gears to the Pelicans. And, you know, look, I think all of us really believed that they were going to have at least a chance to be able to vie for the playoffs this year. I've been very critical because they did not change in the offseason, maybe tweak this roster, bring in players that maybe could play the Gentry system. You got an often injured team that again, you're asking to play a type of system that's very, very demanding on your body. With that said, they're out of it. Okay, I don't know how you can lose 11 games in the month of November and expect to be able to compete in the Southwest Division nor in the West.
See, a couple of those were October, though, Eric.
Right, but okay. But we're not even in December, and they've lost 11 games. Here's my concern. $32 million come off the books next year. Anderson, Gordon, Cole, Perkins, G, and Babbitt. You've got another $25 million that will be in the last year of the contract with Holiday and Evans. The last thing I want to see right now is Dell Demps, in a quest to be able to save his job, to start dismantling this roster no matter how bad it is right now, because the key is going forward to build a team that can win a championship. And you need a Robin to Anthony Davis's Batman. I'm hoping that, again, there will be not a knee-jerk reaction on Airline Drive where he is allowed to start trading off, especially expiring contracts. The NBA salary cap will expand next year. They've got $32 million coming off the books. That's a lot of money to be able to woo a free agent to be able to play with Anthony Davis. Scotty, you're the basketball guy. I'll go to you first.
Well, listen, I'm going to probably make some people upset, but I haven't seen Anthony Davis look like Anthony Davis. I mean, it's just strange. It's a feel thing. He doesn't look engaged at all. Yeah, I know he got 33 points in the second half against the Hawks. I followed the games. I know what's going on, but I'm talking about the way he looks on the court. It's body language, and I'm like, I did not expect this. If you're talking about the biggest shock, bigger than what LSU did last 2 weeks, bigger than what Saints, it's that. I mean, I thought this was get driven into all in win. And I know some guys are a little different, body language wise. Eric Gordon, I kind of defended him when people like, he doesn't care. I'm like, that's just his style. But we've seen Anthony Davis care. I'm not saying he's not giving it his all. It's just he looks like the injuries are affecting him. And I get that because they're affecting everybody, all of us. But as far as the team and what they need to go to the future, listen, I kind of was all in on the continuity thing. So you and I differed there. I was hoping. But my goodness, how many injuries can this team have? And it's not like even the new guys are getting hurt. No. Pondexter and Cole didn't start the season last year, and now they haven't even played at all this year. Tyreek Evans, the same thing. It's something that's beyond my comprehension.
It's frustrating because, again, you haven't seen the team
together
that you're supposed to see.
Sure.
So that makes it difficult. Are you going to dig yourself so big of a hole that you can't get out of it by the time you do get healthy? I don't know. Now, keep in mind that what are they, like they're 5 games or so out of the 8 spot right now? They were 3.5 out with 10 to go a year ago and made the playoffs. So we're only talking a game and a half difference there, and we got 70 games left at this point. So it's not over by any means, but from a mental standpoint, I got to believe that it's getting very, very difficult and very, very frustrating. And I wonder if that is, like Scott mentioned, impacting Anthony Davis as well. And also, just him being trying to be a bulkier type player. He played a little bit different last year in a different system with a different body setup, and I wonder how much that is making a difference in all of this as well.
What about the possible dismantling of the team and trying to bring in other players to salvage the season, maybe giving up the flexibility of having more money under the cap next year?
Well, you have to, like he said, I want to see the team play together. And I'm not going to do this in December, and I certainly wouldn't do it until the All-Star break. But, yeah, if they're not there and you see some expiring contracts that you're going to have to play for the future, of course. But I really want to see all 12 of these guys play together. It's been unbelievable how many times we haven't been able to see that in the last 5 years. So with this group, yeah, it's a long shot right now. But like he said, 3.5 out with 5 to go just a year ago. Listen, I just want to see them play at least a month together to see what I can see and then move on.
And the way the system works, what are you really going to get for expiring contracts other than taking them off the books?
That's
and by the time, and if you do wait until February, how much at that point are you really taking off the books? Not as much.
And you don't want to bring in somebody that's got more years on their deal. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You've been waiting for this in some cases to try to, and we'll give Alvin Gentry an opportunity to be able to field his team, a team that fits his system as well. Let's head to the phone lines. Jimmy's in Kenner. Jimmy, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, guys. I'm a Tulane season ticket holder, and before the Army game, CBS Sports had Tulane ranked as the 7th worst team in the country. And then they called the UConn game the saddest game in the history of college football. Wow. And 2 of the 3 wins that Curtis Johnson had last year, he's already lost to that team this year, to those teams. So my question is there any way Curtis Johnson, you think, survives this year?
Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate the phone call. Lenny?
I think it depends on who the new athletic director is. And Tulane is interviewing 5 people here today and tomorrow, 5 finalists for the athletic director's job, and I think a lot of that, who comes into that spot is going to help determine Curtis's fate. That in the last 2 games, and I think Tulane has a legitimate shot to win these last 2 games. They're playing an SMU team Saturday night that's got 1 win in a year, and then they finish up at home next Friday night against a Tulsa team that, depending on what they could be playing for a bowl spot, they may have a little bit more to play for, much like what Temple did the last game here last year, came in looking to get to 6-6 and get themselves bowl eligible. So can he survive? I think if he wins those 2 games, and maybe he does have a chance to survive that. And then shortly thereafter, I think you'll see an AD in place, and that will be the final determining factor on whether he does survive. So you got a couple of moving parts there, the rest of the schedule, and then who actually becomes the AD.
Scott, you picked him against Army last week. They won.
Guaranteed it.
Yep, you sure did.
And they were 2.5-point underdogs.
Yes, you did. And I know you have a great relationship with CJ.
I think he's back. I really do. I think unless he gets blown out these 2 games, if he wins the 2, I think he's back. So if you're asking me, is there any way he survives? Yeah, I think there's a big way he survives. And listen, I am a friend, so maybe I'm the wrong guy to ask. But the bottom line here is I'm trying to put the journalism shoes on and just see what he's had to deal with too. And it's a little bit like the Pelicans in a lot of ways. I mean, you don't know the inside of some of these losses. They see the final score against the schools like Temple and Memphis, whereas in reality, they were outplaying those 2 teams up until the half. But it's what have you done for me lately, meaning the second half. And I think this team has shown enough improvement. And I think they're getting better in a lot of ways. And I know people think I'm crazy, but I watch the games. And I'm telling you right now, that Connecticut game was sorry, but it was a squall. I mean, got to be real with you. I mean, Tulane shut that team out. Okay, so if you don't like defense, I guess you don't like it. They got the 7 points on a 67-yard interception. I think he's back. That's my answer.
I was there and it was miserable. I could tell you.
Right. Well, guys, and look.
The weather, right?
Yes.
And
that too.
No doubt about that. They moved the AD search up because they want the new AD, to make a decision on football.
No doubt. I mean, that's the only reason you do it. You got an AD who retired as of June 30th, and now all of a sudden you're fast-tracking the process to do this. And look, how you go about hiring athletic directors has changed immensely over the years. And Scott knows this because he follows college athletics well. It would be a year-long, year-and-a-half kind of process to do this. Now you're getting them done in weeks.
Yes.
And I mean, look, Rick just retired at the end of September, effective June 30th, and they're going to possibly have somebody in place before the end of this month. That's pretty quick.
Scotty?
No, I agree. I mean, it's very quick. But, I mean, listen, I mean, the bottom line is Tulane. The fans, the support, the boosters, the alumni, and they're going to dictate the final thing.
Well, that's why I always believe this was the most critical hire in modern Tulane history in terms of their athletics. Those of you that listen to my radio show and follow me on Twitter know that last night I released Arnie Filko's Blueprint for Success for the Tulane athletic program. Arnie was not invited to as a finalist to be able to go for the AD job. I think it was a really, really bad move on the part of Tulane. But ultimately, we'll see what happens, and we'll see ultimately who will be there, and if they can change Tulane. And I'm not talking about just on the field, but I'm talking about the fan base as well. Lenny, thanks so much for being with us. Scott Alexander, thanks so much for being with us. Lenny Vangilder, Scott Alexander, really appreciate you guys joining us tonight here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there is a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Television at 9 p.m. every Friday night. You can catch me on the radio, 990 AM WGSO, 11 to 1. Also, the TuneIn Radio app, as well as ericasher.com, where you can catch all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports. Again, special thanks to our guests, Scott Alexander and Lenny Vangilder. Also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Jaeger, Jim Dotson, Donovan Joseph, Philip Williamson, Richard King, and also my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you right back here next week, Thanksgiving night, for Inside New Orleans Sports. Have a great evening.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.